Hey everyone, it's Mr. Strength again. I'm here to talk to you about the history of advertising, right? It's been around for a while, so let's do a quick go over of what the history of advertising is, at least what I'm telling you that it is. All right, so in the art of advertising, we're going to talk about the history of advertising. All right, so here's a little bit of history. It's hard to imagine ads before the digital media age, which y'all are a huge part of. But messages and posters date back to the Egyptians, which it makes sense because it was a huge central hub of trade between Africa, China, and Europe using the Silk Road. History, some things I know. Commercial messages and political campaign displays have been discovered in the ruins of Pompeii and in Arabia. So Pompeii was an island off of Italy where a volcano exploded, but it went off so unexpectedly that the explosion essentially preserved almost everything there. They are still digging it up and they find bodies of like families huddled, they find plates, pottery, homes still intact. Like it was a flashbang and just preserved everything. Arabia is actually, you're thinking of the Middle East. And so a lot of heat, dry heat. And so a lot of things do get preserved there with paint and whatnot. But we're going to take a look at some different pieces. And in the Middle Ages, when the ability to read was not widespread, images were used to advertise for businesses such as what fruit vendors may sell or what type of event. I'm going to fix my terrible grammar piece here. It's actually punctuation, but anyways, so there you go, Mr. Strength fixing things on the fly. All right, so as you can see here is an event probably from the Greeks, and so they've got it's going to be a fight. Yo, everybody, it's fight night, right? So this is how they would let people know because at those times you didn't know how to read unless you were royalty or nobility, and not a lot of people were that rich, right? So they would use images to help people understand what it is that's happening or what they're trying to tell them. Forms of advertisement can be found in most major civilizations, including ancient China, Greece, and Rome. And obviously, ones all over. You're going to find them in Aztec and Mayan ruins. You're going to find it across Africa. You're going to find them across the Middle East and Europe. So, in the image that you see here on the left, it is a bronze plate used to print ads for a needle shop in the Song Dynasty. Now, what's really cool about this is that while this is a plate, later Gutenberg figured out how to switch out certain parts of this plate so that they were smaller plates that make a bigger plate, and that's how we got the Gutenberg press. So there are three major forms of advertising that were used in the pre-printing era, and that are trademarks, town criers, and signboards. And we actually still do have two of these in existence. The third, you see them occasionally. It's not too often. So we're going to start with trademarks. This is something that we still do see. So attaching a seal or a mark to a product to help customers recognize the company. What could that be? Like the Apple symbol, the Samsung logo, the Nike swoosh, the Adidas tri-brands, these things that we see that we immediately know are going to be that company. So that's how a trademark works, right? So unique signs or images were incorporated by craftspeople into their work to show where a particular product originated from and who made it. And this is actually a really cool thing because for really like old pottery, old dishes and things, this is how you can find out if it's actually worth something because specific makers were they did so well with their products or the quality was so well that they actually like you have to look for a specific trademark symbol and that tells you who did it, when it was made, and if it has value down the line. The next one is a town crier. Now, we don't see these very often, but occasionally you see someone out there just yelling about stuff. These have actually been replaced with the sign spinners, or if someone's in a mascot costume out there waving at you as you drive by, freaked out because what the hell is a giant 6 foot chicken doing out there selling fried chicken? That seems really counterproductive. But let's set aside my rabbit hole I can dig right there. But town criers are used to announce locations of street vendors to help customers find them. This was especially useful in illiterate areas where people couldn't read. The first town criers, or heralds, can be tracked back to ancient Greece around 776 BC. They were known as Spartan runners, which is a way cooler name for what they are. Town criers were also used to go into the town center or town square, and they would announce news, things that were happening, as well as, I guess if shops were closed or whatever. So we don't see these very often. They do pop up occasionally. Someone may be, yelling something, but like I said, we tend to see the sign spinners. Ooh, that was really hard to say. We tend to see the sign spinners and mascots that are trying to get your attention to get you to come in. The next one is going to be our signboards. We do see these. They've just changed over time. Sometimes you'll see a sandwich board out in front. It's that little A-frame piece. This could technically be the sign spinners. And then you see billboards and posters as well. Signboards are used to mark businesses or to announce public events, like flyers. At a time when education and literacy were limited, signs were used for identification rather than the written word. So, for example, we might recognize the letters OPEN as that means it's open, but we may not actually know what open means. Here's a good example. Sears. Sears used to be a massive company, okay? So this is one of their flyer pieces you would have seen, like a signboard. And of course, they got a woman. She's, advertising mail order. So modern advertising began in the 16th and 17th centuries with the creation of magazines and newspapers. So this is long after Gutenberg Press and where we're able to actually send stuff out. Gutenberg Press allowed for the better education of individuals. And so people were able to read and write as a population, which meant that now words could be used a lot more than just an image. The first weekly gazette or newspaper appeared in Venice, Italy, in the early 16th century. The first newspaper advertisement in the US was printed in 1704. The first billboard appeared in the early 1800s. And so you can see how it kind of ticks down as time moves and it evolves. Okay, in 1840, the first advertising agency in the U.S. was started in Philadelphia by Volney B. Palmer. So you guys know I don't care about this stuff. I'm just sharing some information for you. As in, I don't care if you memorize it. It's not necessarily going to be relative to anything, but it kind of gives you an idea of some of the history. But this part really is about what I'm about to describe to you and read next, because this is still how it's done. So in 1842, Palmer purchased large amounts of ad space in the newspapers and then resold the space at a higher rate to companies to advertise. So this is actually how billboards work. So a billboard will pay someone to build the whole thing there. They may even have to pay like a monthly rental fee just to have it on someone's property. Then what they do is they go and they sell that advertising space at a markup so that A, they pay for their monthly fee, B, they pay for the materials that it's going to take to print this thing, C, they're paying for the wages of the people who are going to hang it, and so on, so they can support their business. That's kind of how the model started out, and it's not very different these days. But that's a little bit of history on advertising, and I'm sure you'll start to notice some things around town. Flyers on the electric posters on the sides of buildings, and billboards all around. I do recommend that you check them out. I do all the time, but that gives you a little insight as to where they came from and really, maybe where you're going to go from there. All right. Thanks for listening, you guys. I'll see you all in the class.